everybody, Matt Brown here, and with this lesson I'm going to show you how to properly hold the guitar. Now, I always have students that come in for lessons that, even a lot of them that have been playing for several years, just haven't learned how to properly hold the guitar. So I thought I'd put this lesson out there, and hopefully it's helpful for a lot of people. So let's start with the legs and the feet and your foundation, and just work our way up. So what you want to look for is, if we're sitting down, first things first, you got to find a chair or a bench or something like that that's going to allow you to play well. Right now I'm sitting on a piano bench, and it's perfect for me. What you want to look for is that your knees, so your upper legs and lower legs through your knees are creating basically a perfect 90-degree angle. So what you don't want is something that's too low. Like if I were sitting on my couch over there, what happens is like my ass is below my knees. So I'm kind of like slouched down in that kind of a position. So that's something you don't want. And you want to look out for the opposite too. So something where you're sitting up too high and your knees are bent downward or upper legs are bent downward in that direction. So you want to keep your feet shoulder width apart, don't cross your legs, and of course sit up straight is always a good thing to do. Now the next thing that I'm going to talk about is maybe I might argue the most important aspect of holding an electric guitar or a steel string acoustic, and that is using a strap. So regardless of whether you're playing sitting down or standing up, always use a strap. Now there's a trick to figure out how your strap should be adjusted. Roughly, your guitar is going to want to hang like mine. So the neck's going to have roughly about a 45-degree angle with the floor. If it's like this, you're putting yourself at a huge disadvantage already. So having it like this is ideal. So to figure out how you should adjust your strap, basically what you want to do is slowly raise your left arm. Hold it at your side and just raise the arm from the bicep real slowly. And then there's a point where the force of gravity will seem like it's no longer exerting like such an extreme force as it was on your bicep muscle. So for me, that's right here. So my left hand, ideally, and left arm should be playing like along this plane right here. And you can tell already that's pretty high up compared to how you might be seeing a lot of people playing, like down here. And just look at my wrist, it's just really unnatural and uncomfortable, whereas here this is just really natural and really effortless. So that's how you should adjust your strap. And you'll notice, I'll tilt the camera down a bit, that the guitar is like this bout here, this, curved part here. It's not resting on my leg like this. It's hanging in the air, and the guitar, with the help of the strap, is resting against my abdomen. So regardless of whether you're playing sitting down, standing up, that's how you should adjust your strap. So if I were to play standing up, I'm not going to adjust anything at all. I'm just going to stand up, and my guitar is going to be in relation to my torso and abdomen again. It's going to be the exact same spot. Okay, so now some of you may be asking, well, I play a guitar with a real funny shape, like a V, or maybe like a Gibson RD or something like that, that has like, not necessarily a traditional shape. Those guitars, when sitting down, kind of can present some unique challenges. And so there's maybe another way, arguably, to hold a guitar like that, and really any electric or acoustic guitar that'll also work out. So usually in those situations, if I opt to play like a V guitar to record something and I'm playing sitting down, I'll do the kind of the classical guitar way of holding the guitar, where the guitar does rest on the leg, but it's resting on my left leg. And then the left leg would be elevated with like a classical guitar footstool or something like that. And that basically will allow for that 45-degree angle. And so then, like, you know, the points of the V will be coming down that way. But really, you know, that's the only guitar I've run into like that. And maybe, you know, that's a good way, the second option to play, like I said, any guitar sitting down. It doesn't really, I think it's a little bit more comfortable with electric guitar because it's smaller than, say, a steel string acoustic, but that does also work if that's comfortable for you. All right, so the last couple of things I want to talk about are some basic right hand and left hand misconceptions that a lot of people run into. The first one with the left hand is that a lot of people will hear that you always have to play with the left hand technique where your thumb is basically against the middle of the neck and is not coming over at all. And that's not necessarily true. That kind of comes from a guideline from way back when a lot of people were playing classical or nylon string guitars. And so since the neck is way bigger, it's really impossible to bring it up and over. Unless you have monstrously big hands. So that's kind of where that rule originates from. Now, as it applies to the modern day, say, electric guitar, steel string acoustic, whatever, that rule, in my mind, no longer applies. So there are some situations, obviously, where you do want to do that. I would say if you're just playing straight up a scale, like I just did A minor pentatonic, I'm keeping that classical technique going. So if you're playing single notes without doing any bends or vibrato, that would be a time to do it. Certain chord progressions in barred chords will force you into putting your thumb in that way. So there are some rhythm applications that are obviously a lot more comfortable when you're playing with that positioning. Now, there are situations where it is good to bring the thumb up and over, like when doing a bend or vibrato. If you do your vibrato like that, I actually keep my thumb on the back when I do my vibrato, but a lot of people don't. So doing a bend or vibrato, it's a good time to bring the thumb in up and over to get that leverage. Now, playing also like these open chords low here on the fretboard, that for most people it's going to be a lot more comfortable to have the thumb at least kind of like up here a little bit instead of down here. It just makes accommodating those chord changes for most people a little bit easier. Now, if that's not the case for you, you know, try the classical technique. But for me, I find that I have to move my fingers a little bit less when my wrist is kind of tilted at this angle instead of perpendicular to the board. Alright, so last thing I want to talk about is the right hand and holding the pick. So I hold the pick like this, gripped between the side of the index finger and the pad of the thumb, and then my fingers come in like this. So the reason for this is it gives you the most stable picking mechanism, more or less. Everything is like solidified, the first finger is pressed against the second, so you just have this real solid kind of feeling grip. And so I always play single note stuff, or not always, but most of the single note type lines, like, again, playing a scale with that kind of technique. Now for strumming, I let my these fingers not holding the pick be loose. So so that type of thing. Now there are times when I do let these fingers come out for other applications like palm muting. You can palm mute with the fingers in, but for me, those fingers tend to rub on the strings, create a little bit of noise, and it's just uncomfortable. So I've always found it a lot easier and more comfortable to palm mute things, whether it's single notes, chords, whatever, with the fingers out. The other thing that I'll say is sometimes when I tremolo pick, I pick from the index finger and thumb, and when I get that type of thing going on, that's really the only time where I'll anchor, or it's not really even anchoring, but resting some fingers just lightly down here on the guitar. So they're not, they're not locked in place, so the, one finger or multiple fingers are stationary, and then everything's got to come from this. It's just they're kind of hanging out down here. And basically that allows for, if you're playing like a fast line on a single string or multiple strings, to get that happening. So maybe check out, like, I did a lesson on Metallica's The God That Failed, and really you can see all of these different techniques in that solo, all of the right hand techniques that I've talked about. So, all right, hopefully this has been helpful for you. Email me if you have any questions. I teach private lessons too, so we can do that over Skype, or if you're local here in Chicago, you can come by my house and we can do a lesson. But anyway, if you have questions, get in touch, and I'll see you guys around. Thanks.